Hi class, it's Corrine, your teacher. I am sorry this video took me so long. Hopefully some of my online examples helped, but I wanted to just talk about the Diet Analysis 3 project really quick. So I have it pulled up here, and the point of the Diet Analysis 3 is to look at your original food intakes, which you analyzed in Part 2, and identify areas that could use some improvement, then make some modifications that you think are reasonable, rerun the data through NutriCalc, and see what the result was. So submit them as PDFs. It doesn't say specifically how to title them, but do just first name, last name, DAP number 3. And like I said, you're going to use the results from diet analysis number 2. What is your personal goal weight? If you want to lose weight or gain weight, you can write that here. To me, I don't want to do either of those things. I just want to maintain. Would you say your goal weight represents weight loss or weight gain? You would write that as well. I guess for my personal goal weight, I probably should have put 128 pounds because that's my current weight and I don't want to lose any. But if that was different from your current weight, you would put that there. Is your goal weight appropriate considering BMI, body composition, health? My BMI is within normal range, so I'm happy with my weight and don't need to change it. Identify 3 aspects of your current eating plan that are promoting health and meeting your nutrition needs. So this is where you're probably going to look back at your results for Part 2 and see how closely you met your needs based on numbers, what % of micro and macronutrients met needs, but also based on variety of foods and types of foods and how close you were to potentially meeting my plate recommendations. So you can read some of the goals that I put there. Then you are going to fill out this table using the results from Diet Analysis Part 2. And what you're going to do is you're going to list each nutrient. They're actually listed for you. You're going to write if you overconsumed, underconsumed, or met the needs for it. The overconsumption would be if you were above goal for Part 2. The underconsumption would be if you were below goal for Part 2. And the needs met would be if you were within goal for Part 2. So for example, protein, and this was kind of a tricky one for me, and I'll explain it. If you feel you had a special situation with one of the nutrients, you can explain it too. So I actually overconsumed protein, but all of my sources of protein were pretty healthy. The only one that I felt that I could eliminate was mozzarella cheese. I don't need as much saturated fat or, dairy sources of protein, but the other ones were okay. Total fat, saturated fat, I met my needs. Trans fat, I did overconsume, but barely. So I wrote about it here. Although in my diet analysis, I entered fish sticks. I didn't actually eat fish sticks. I ate fish tacos with fried fish in them, but that was the closest thing I could find. So I don't know how accurate that was. Cholesterol, if you underconsume it, that is fine because we don't need excess of it, so you don't need to write anything about that. Omega-3s, I underconsumed. So I identified 3 foods that I could add and or increase in my diet and how specifically I could do that. For example, flax seeds. I could grind up 2 tablespoons and mix them in with my spaghetti sauce. Walnuts. I could eat 2 ounces of walnuts instead of mixed nuts. Broccoli, increased serving size. So for some of these vitamins and minerals, if you're under consuming, you may need to look in your book and look up sources of vitamin A or sources of omega-3 or sources of vitamin E so that you can list foods you could add to your diet to help you meet those goals. So for anything that I underconsumed or overconsumed, I'm adding 3 foods, or I'm talking about 3 foods that I ate too much of and how I could change them. For vitamin C, I did overconsume the goal per diet analysis Part 2, but I didn't exceed the upper limit. And so I chose to not change this as the sources I consumed of vitamin C were healthy and I wasn't near the upper limit. And if you want to write something like that, you can, but you just better have a good reason for it. Sodium, I did overconsume. I think part of it was diet, part of it might have been NutriCalc discrepancies. So for example, soy sauce, I'm going to cut it back. I'm going to cook ahi tuna at home instead of going out and make homemade tomato sauce. I did not fill out the rest of this table, but you would fill out the entire table. Okay, the next thing. List 3 nutrients you choose to target. Explain why you chose each. Be sure to identify how your health history was a factor in your choosing these 3 nutrients. You may need more room than provided below to explain your decisions. So I wrote a brief reason for mine, but I would encourage you to write more than I wrote. And so I chose omega-3, vitamin A, and sodium. Omega-3 and vitamin A were both things I underconsumed. Sodium was something I overconsumed. And then I chose omega-3 because even though I'm taking a supplement, consuming natural food sources would be better. Omega-3s are important as antioxidants and important phyto and zoonutrients. I have a genetic cancer risk. Tilting my fat profile away from saturated trans fat is beneficial. So you could write more. Then for these 3 nutrients, so whichever 3 you picked, you're going to prioritize 2 of your changes and highlight them. So you're going to go back up to this section and you can see where I highlighted changes for sodium, highlighted changes for vitamin A, and highlighted changes for omega-3s. And the 2 that I chose to highlight for each one were ones that I think were obtainable and realistic for me and my eating pattern. So total, you should highlight 6 things, 2 from each of these 3 nutrient categories. Then you're going to go back to NutriCalc and make revisions to your intake based on the changes you decided to implement. After I've made these changes, select 3 days again and generate the new reports. So I went to my NutriCalc here and I added flaxseed. Flaxseed was something that I didn't have before. I added kale. I also removed soy sauce. So what you can do, and I changed the type of tuna that I added. So what you can do is either go into one of these and delete it and add a new one. You can go into one of these, such as the kale. You could change the amount. And then after you do that, you're going to hit Save Changes. I didn't actually make changes right now because I've previously done them, but you're going to make changes on each of your 3 days to areas that you identified. Then you're going to go back to Reports. You're going to scroll to the bottom. You're going to do All Daily Reports, and you're going to select those 3 original days that you used for your diet analysis part 1 and 2, and you're going to do a view report, and it's as PDF. So this is a report using the foods that I have changed. Now what you're going to do is you're going to use the results of this to enter into the rest of diet analysis part 3. So for example, sodium, I'm still over my goal, but I significantly reduced my amount. And vitamin A, I was under my goal, but now I'm at 119%. So using this new NutriCalc report, you are going to go back here and you're going to fill in amount consumed of each nutrient versus recommended intake of each nutrient. So that's kind of like what you did in part 2. And then you're going to categorize it as within, which is 85 to 149%, below, which is 85% or less, or above, which is greater than 150%. You don't have to put your numbers in parentheses like I did here, but for me, you can see that I did this, but for me, it was very helpful to do that because I could look at these numbers and compare them to my diet analysis part 2 to see where I excelled and how my changes really made a difference. So you don't have to for your grade, but it might be helpful for your analysis. Then, similar to part 2, you're going to look at which nutrients were meeting goal, which nutrients were low, which nutrients were above, and then you're going to analyze your changes. So you can read what I wrote here in my online example. I'm not going to read it to you now, but you're going to want to look at things that you were trying to change, but also look at all the nutrients. Were others affected that maybe you were not trying to change? And some of those might be for the better, some of those might be for the worse. So I'm expecting a thorough analysis for this. You should kind of gauge how many or how much you should write and how thorough your analysis should be based on how many points the part of the assignment is. This is going to be talking about exercise and thinking about your part 2, and then setting specific and reasonable and SMART goals. This is a part where many students lose points, so make sure to be very specific and have measurable goals here. For example, I said I'm going to reduce mozzarella cheese consumption at breakfast to 3 times a week from daily by substituting avocado instead. Barrier, avocados need to be ripe, a little more perishable and expensive than cheese. For example, I know personally I bought a bag at Costco 4 days ago. I'm still waiting for them to ripen. I was out of town, so I couldn't have any ripe ones in the fridge already. But my solution is buying them before running out, placing them on top of the shelf to ripen while continuing to eat the others in the fridge. As they ripen, put them in the fridge for storage, place more on shelf. So kind of rotating so they can ripen, and always getting more before I run out of ripe ones so that the new ones have time to ripen. So that's kind of the goal I'm looking for. And then top 5 things you've learned. Again, this is a 4-point assignment. So you should have a thorough analysis in this. I don't want you to just say, I was low in sodium, I was low in calories, because we can see that from your graph. And then here are the submission instructions. They are at the bottom. So last name, first name, diet analysis part 3, that's what I said, and make sure to submit all your reports. Okay, let me know if you have any questions, and good luck. Thanks. Bye.